Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. The studio lights dimmed, the makeup was off, and the voices faded into the soft hum of cables being wound up. Eamonn Holmes sat still in his chair long after the cameras stopped rolling. The red light was gone. No Ruth beside him, brushing something from his jacket. No soft laughter from the crew. Just silence. The last segment of this morning had wrapped 2 months earlier, but the weight of that final day clung to Eamonn like the scent of old perfume. Familiar, comforting, fading. A headline had once read, TV's golden couple end 27-year partnership. The tabloid cackled the news like it was a twist in a soap opera. But to Eamonn, it was no plot twist. It was the end of his favourite chapter. "Take care, Mr. Holmes," said a young assistant as she passed him his cane. "I've been trying," he muttered with a thin smile. Outside, the world continued. People bustled, traffic honked, and the pavements shimmered with London's indifferent heat. But to Eamonn, everything felt slightly off script. Ruth had moved out a month ago. Their home still smelled of her, jasmine and coconut shampoo, and every room echoed with her absence. He missed the way she spoke to the dog like it was a person, the clink of her teacup against the saucer, the quiet sighs she thought he never noticed. But worse still, he missed the rhythm of their mornings, the shared routine, the blend of public chemistry and private affection. It was like losing an anchor. And now the flat felt like a stage after the play's over, dimly lit and too quiet. Her name was Katie Alexander. She wasn't a television personality. She didn't do glitzy galas or have a wardrobe curated by stylists. She was a marriage counselor, of all things. A woman who specialized in helping people hold on to what Eamonn had just lost. They'd met at a wellness charity event. He hadn't planned on going, but one of his producers insisted. "She's not like the others," he'd said. Katie was tall, understated, and spoke like she'd been born on a quiet page in a good book. Her kindness wasn't flashy, it was real, and in a room full of clinking glasses and forced smiles, that kind of quiet was magnetic. She didn't ask about Ruth. Not at first. And when she did, she said, "I'm not here to fix you, Eamonn. That's your journey. But if you want company on the road, I walk gently." It was the gentleness that undid him. They began seeing each other weekly. No flashy dates. Mostly tea and long walks, or wheels, in his case. His back had never fully recovered from spinal surgery, and he hated the damn chair. But Katie didn't make him feel small in it. She made him feel seen. By October, whispers began. Eamonn Holmes finds love again, the headlines teased, as if love was a thing you could stumble on like a pound coin on the sidewalk. But it wasn't love. Not yet. It was something softer. A healing kindness. A permission to exhale. Then came the day he asked her to move in. She paused, her cup halfway to her lips. "Eamonn," she said gently, "I have a life in Surrey. My practice. My son. My community. You're asking for more than just a roommate." "I'm asking for someone to not leave," he said too quickly. Katie put down her cup and held his hand. "I'm not Ruth," she said. "And you don't want me to be. You need time. Maybe we both do." And just like that, the offer was declined, not coldly, but truthfully. Eamonn respected her for it, but it still stung. Loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. Sometimes it creeps in when someone says not yet. Ruth's reinvention, meanwhile, in a house not far from their old one, Ruth Langsford was learning to breathe again. She didn't realize how many of her decisions were made in consideration of Eamonn, what to cook, which show to take, even how late to stay up. Now, in the quiet of her own space, she was rediscovering autonomy like it was a lost earring in the carpet. Her days were full, loose women, occasional charity galas, calls from friends. But the nights, that's where the acre lived. She still wore her ring for a while after the announcement. Then, one morning, without drama, she slipped it off. The imprint remained for weeks, pale skin shaped like a memory. Reporters followed her. Paparazzi hid in bushes. She hated it. Yet there was something cathartic about being her own story again. Not one half of a headline, just Ruth. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't angry. She was grieving, but also healing. Eamonn had sent a birthday card in May. Still the classiest woman I know. I hope you're smiling today. E. She kept it in a drawer. Some days she wondered if he'd really moved on. Other days she didn't want to know. December in London came with the usual glittering storefronts, street choirs, and the thick fog of nostalgia. Eamonn had always loved Christmas, the rhythm of ritual, the annual repetition of joy. But this year every carol was a reminder, not a comfort. No Ruth wrapping gifts in the spare room. No corny matching jumpers. No whisper of "don't peek" as she tucked presents behind the sofa. He wheeled himself to the window and watched children run toward the department store displays. He hadn't decorated. Katie had visited once earlier in the month. She brought mince pies and her easy laugh, but something had shifted. She seemed more cautious, gentle, but distant. Eamonn sensed it, a kind of invisible clock ticking down. Maybe we're not quite. Timed right, she said at one point, her hand grazing his. He wanted to argue, but what could he say? That she didn't want to stay didn't make her cruel. It just made her human. On Christmas Eve, the phone rang. Ruth just wanted to say, "Merry Christmas, Eamonn." He smiled unexpectedly. "You too, Ruthie, you sound good." "I'm getting there." They sat in companionable silence for a few seconds. "Do you remember that time you dressed as Santa for Jack and got stuck in the attic?" "I still have the scar on my knee." She laughed, and for a moment it felt like December from a different lifetime. "I miss the noise," he said. "Me too." In January, Eamonn was blindsided by a headline. Eamonn's new flames past revealed, secret divorce, financial woes, and a hidden agenda. It was trash, pure tabloid fiction. But the damage was done. Katie called him the moment it broke. "I swear, this is insane, Eamonn. They're pulling bits from when my ex defaulted on payments, before we even split. They twisted everything." "I know," he said calmly. But inside, a familiar dread bloomed. The press, the scrutiny, the way truth got paper-cut and reassembled to fit the narrative. Katie paused. "I didn't sign up for this. I thought I could handle being public, but I can't." Eamonn didn't plead. He simply listened. "Maybe we should pause things for a while," she whispered. Click. Not the kind of click phones used to make. Digital silence is somehow colder. He sat back in his chair, watching his reflection in the black television screen. He looked tired. His eyes puffier, the weight of pain heavier. The worst part of loneliness isn't silence. It's feeling like a burden no one wants to carry. Ruth had found joy again in the least likely of places, soil. Her garden had become a sanctuary. She dug. She watered. She trimmed. And that's where she met Nathan Bellamy, a botanist from Kent who ran a garden column in a weekend magazine. He'd come to help redesign her overgrown back plot. He was about her age, wore boots with mud permanently etched into the leather. called her Miss Langsford at first until she laughed and made him stop.